Hi, welcome back. We've been talking about what time is it. We, of course, are familiar with this passage. It's a very popular one where it talks about the sons of Issachar and that they understood the times. But the next part is, and therefore what to do. That unless we understand what time we are in, it becomes hard to understand what we ought to do. And so what we've been trying to do is first to establish what time we are in, and then what we ought to do. And we use the story of the wedding in Cana in saying, whatever he tells us to do, whatever he tells you to do, do it. So that's the place we are in, that whatever he's telling us to do, we do. And we also established that there are vessels that he's using right now that may not look like the orthodox traditional vessels we like. They may come dressed differently. They might be having dreads instead of short hair. There might be beard gun instead of they might come in like John the Baptist was in the wilderness. Jesus was in the bushes with the tax collectors. It might look different, but may we be able to discern the new wine, because it's the wine that makes a difference. It's the Spirit that is pouring out. And so as we talk about revival and all that, may we not be distracted by other things. May we not be like John, are you the one, should you wait for another? May we be able to see why it is. Let's not presume on our own knowing, going by the past, because he's doing a new thing. Right? So I wanted us to read this passage that is familiar again, because this time I want us to talk about the new wineskins. Now we've talked about the new wine, but what about the new wineskins? Because we know, and from the passage I'm going to read, that new wine demands new wineskins. In fact, new wineskins have to be there before the new wine can be poured. And that's the point you want to make. So we're reading from Matthew chapter 9. So I'll read from verse 14 onwards. So then the disciples of John came to Jesus saying, why do we and the Pharisees fast often, but your disciples do not fast? These people had been harassed by religion. They're fasting a lot, and they're like, your disciples are just eating. Why? This is unfair. And Jesus said to them, can the friends of the bridegroom mourn as long as the bridegroom is with them? No, they're on party mode. But the days will come when the bridegroom will be taken away from them, and then they will fast. Then this is where he goes. Now, they were talking about fasting, So it's nothing sinful, nothing carnal. They're talking about good disciplines, fasting and all. Then Jesus uses that to introduce this discussion. Verse 16. No one puts a piece of unshrunk cloth on an old garment, for the patch pulls away from the garment, and then the tear is made worse. So he's trying to say, if you have a cloth that needs to be patched, back when we used to love patching clothes, you don't use a new piece of cloth on an old one, because then, there'll be that vuta nikuvute. Then verse 17, nor, and which is where I'll focus on more, nor do they put new wineskin into old wineskins. Nor do they put new wine into old wineskins, or else the wineskins break. The wine is spilled, and the wineskins are ruined. So he's saying, if you put new wine in old wineskins, you lose the wine and you lose the wineskin. It's important. So you're not just losing the wine, even the wineskin. And but they put new wine into new wineskins, and both are preserved. So this tells us that in God's heart and in God's mind, he wants to preserve both. So it's not just holding back, it's that he doesn't want the wineskin to be destroyed. So he wants the wineskin intact, and he wants the wine intact. That's what he's going for. So what does this mean in our context? What is a wineskin? Now we know the new wine, we can relate it to the new move of God. And let's just go with that for now. It's a new move of God, what we are calling a revival. But then what is a new wineskin? Now in this passage, the conversation comes when they're talking about fasting. right? So you say the disciples of John are saying, we fast a lot. The Pharisees fast a lot. Your disciples don't fast. Then Jesus starts talking about new wineskin. So it seems like the new wineskin are correlated to this discussion they were having about fasting. Of course, a wineskin is where you pour in the wine, right? So we can say that the new wineskin has to do with new patterns of thinking or belief systems. So in that case, it would mean therefore that he cannot release his new wine if there's still old patterns of thinking. Why? Because the wineskin will be destroyed and the new wine will be wasted. He will lose twice. So this is why he holds back. There's a passage in John 16:12 where Jesus talks to the disciples and he says, I have a lot to tell you, but you cannot bear them now. So he wanted to. He desired to. Remember when I was saying, when it comes to revival, we are not instigating. It is not our idea. We are not the ones making God do it. He already wants to. He usually just lets us know. He pokes us to raise our appetite, but he already wanted to do it. So it starts from his end. So Jesus is saying, I have a lot to tell you, but you can't bear it now. At this point, he was telling them how the prince of this world has been judged. Big things. How the Spirit will convict them of righteousness. They had no greed. they were not prepared to handle what he was saying. But then he goes on to tell them, but when the Spirit comes, when the Spirit of truth comes, he will lead you into all truth. So he didn't just leave them where they were. They were not ready, but he was willing to work with them until they were ready. We know the story of the children of Israel when they are leaving Israel, and the Bible tells us that there was a shorter route they could have used, but God through Moses, he led them through a longer route, and he says, lest you be destroyed by the animals and all those things, or yes, lest you find some enemies there and you're threatened and you go back. So he was working at their pace. Why? What they could handle. He had to tailor it to what they could handle. So what I'm trying to say is, therefore it means if God is going to release something new, he's first going to renew wineskins. He's going to change what we believed so far, has worked so far, but now it needs to be adjusted. And therefore you'll start hearing some new, they're really not new because you'll find them in the word, but they were not emphasized or they were not highlighted as much as they will be. But that needs to happen if we are to contain the new wine that he is releasing. So we ask, now that God is doing this, what is supposed to happen with us? And we are saying, for us, the renewal of the mind. The wineskin has to be renewed for us to contain what he's saying or what he's doing. Some of those things that I would, should I say, relate to old wineskins was we thought that only the person in front, the man of God, led us. Remember when I was talking about Moses versus Joshua? Only the man of God was able to raise the dead, heal the sick, bring the word and all that. That is going to need to change. That when we come to church, we have come to the house of God. We now know the building is not the house of God. We are the house of God. The building shelters the house of God. And so that will have to be adjusted. For a lot of us, we know that theoretically, but then we still behave like that. We still come to meet God in church. And so those are things that will have to change for us to understand that, for us to make room for the new wine. Because remember, he wants to. He has a lot that he wants to release. It's our wineskin that will determine how much he can release. So like I was talking about, sometimes we think we are in the devil's world and we are borrowing space in the devil's world. And I'm saying that paradigm has to shift if we are to occupy. And that's a big discussion right there. When we think we are the underdogs in the world, there's a way we move. When we realize that it has been handed over to us, or it is being handed over to us, we move differently. These are some of those paradigms that have to change. We have to move from being Christians to being sons of God. The two are not the same. Nothing wrong with Christians per se, but Jesus did not come. God was not coming to make Christians. He was coming for sons. If they happen to be Christians, yay, but he was coming for sons. He was not coming to do a behavior change process with us. He was changing us from the inside out. We are changing substantially. That's what he was doing. And some of these things will have to become our reality if we are to contain the new wine. See you on the next episode as we wind this up. God bless you.